people, because you have it in your private practice, and then you have it through call-in service, and you have it through colleges. When you're dealing with those people, does the topic of spirituality ever come up? I would imagine in crisis.
More in crisis,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Oftentimes when you're dealing with someone who is either suicidal or in a sense of crisis, well, there's kind of two parts. Oftentimes when it's in crisis, people are asking questions of why is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
And for certain people, they can turn to that question of, is there something beyond me that's causing this to happen in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And then with people who are often in a suicidal space, one question you often get to is, so, what's going to keep you here? What kind of reasons do you have for not wanting to hurt yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you finding meaning in life?
Mm-hmm.
Is often what it comes down to. I
Mm-hmm.
find that a lot of the work that I do, I see it in, in kind of a technical term as existential,
Mm-hmm.
in that helping people put together meaning for what's going on, and
Mm-hmm.
then how they're going to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes we need that underlying kind of purpose for why am I going to keep living? Why am I going to work hard to
Mm-hmm.
change my behavior?
Mm-hmm.
And so for some people it may get as far as a kind of spiritual perspective,
Mm-hmm.
where they'll, if they're in a suicide or crisis space, they may say, I don't want to do this because I don't want to go to hell. They have a kind of oftentimes Christian underlying of that this is going to cause me pain even beyond if I hurt myself.
Right, right, right.
And then spirituality can often be the basis on which people who are in crisis start to make connections.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes when we get to these really difficult spaces, it's because we feel very alone.
Right.
And we feel that people don't understand us. And I've noticed when I'm working with people that that's kind of an inroad to, well, how can I address this with other people?
Mm-hmm.
And it's often through a spiritual perspective, through a religious community, because that in some ways is a space where you can talk about these questions of,
Mm-hmm.
do I want to live? Do I want to die? Why
Right.
am I here?
Right, right.
What's the reason why I should keep doing the
Right.
things?
Right. So you find that people more often than not, would it be true, more often than not will go to whatever their base spirituality is?
Sometimes
In
it's,
crisis, or?
yeah, it's more often that case with older adults.
Mm-hmm.
I find younger people that's something that I think take time and experience to develop.
Mm-hmm.
When younger people will turn to make mode of Christianity, it's more of a sense of I don't want to upset God and do those kinds of things.
Okay.
Where with older people, it's it seems to me that their relationship with a higher being seems far more developed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's often the case where when people are in that sense of crisis,
Mm-hmm.
These are the places we go to the questions that can't really be answered
Right.
with logic, and because my foot hurts because I stubbed my toe. It's like
Right.
I feel this inner emotional pain,
Mm-hmm.
and to understand it, I kind of have to understand my relationship with the world
Right.
and how I make meaning out of the things that happen in my life.
So when you're, and I'm getting the sense that when you're dealing with these topics, that that dealing with it from a spiritual perspective, it makes it easier. The healing, does it help in the healing process, or does it? Sometimes does it hinder in the healing process, perhaps?
Well, it really, and this is kind of my perspective on all things when I'm working as a counselor, is trying to work with the resources that the individual already has.
Mm-hmm.
So if they already have a spiritual perspective, that's a good place to go.
Right.
And so in that case, yeah, it can be a very helpful thing,
Mm-hmm.
because it, in some ways, emotionally, is something that people can grab onto. easier than saying, okay, well, what you need to do is just exercise and
Right.
breathe deeply and those kinds of
Right,
things.
right.
But it can be hindering in some ways when their kind of spiritual perspective comes with its own kind of emotional baggage. You know, I think that's the difficult thing because, again, depending on the community people grew up in and how spirituality or religion or any of those things have existed in their life to begin with, if it's already a place of difficulty, going there could exacerbate the anxiety, because that may be one of the reasons. They may have this feeling that they've done something wrong, not only in the eyes of friends and family, but in the eyes of whatever higher being it is that's judging them. And oftentimes that's when we feel hopeless, is we feel that we've gone wrong, that we can never repair the damage we've done, either in our own lives or others' lives. The root word of psychology, psyche, in Greek, from what I've read, doesn't mean mind, it means spirit. It's referring to something non-physical.
Right.
In the original Greek, so I understand it. And so, you know, the roots of psychology, the roots of counseling come from spiritual places.
Right.
I mean, even the first doctors and healers were all spiritual people.